If I could pay $10 million to take all those years back and be broke right now in this position that I'm in and be like, I spent every penny so that I could get those 10 or 15 or 20 years back, I'd be like, I can make more money.
And I actually have a solution for this. I know you're saying you can't say bodybuilding. I think you can. You keep bodybuilding exactly as it is. Big Ramy can show up at 300 pounds and go against Nick Walker and battle it out. Who's got the most muscle? And then we have the natural division, same day, whatever, same weekend. And you have it drug tested and say, you have the choice. Chris Bumstead, you want to save your kidneys? You can now go natural, lose 20 pounds, compete in this natural physique class or whatever. And so you offer both. Then the people who are crazy and want to keep pushing, taking anything, you do it. The ones that don't, they have the option. Then anyone dies, you can say, hey, you had the choice.
I get it. I mean, the natural thing, I mean, it'd be so scrutinized with drug testing and all that. And, can we take HRT and still do the show? All those different things. The weight divisions, I love classic physique. And for me, that's the one that I love watching the most, just because of the level of conditioning, the streamlined look, the posing. I think they take a lot of time on perfecting their physiques. Not to say that the open doesn't either. That's not what I'm saying, or the 212s. But I love classic because it is streamlined, old school bodybuilding. They take so much time and dedicate it towards their physique and their whole presentation. And that's what bodybuilding is about. Like the posing that Terrence does is out of control. Same with Chris. It's incredible. But those divisions weren't created with a weight cap for health. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, we can cap the open. I'm like, you can't cap the open. Like you can't do that. The cap in 212 and in classic was not done for your health. It was done for an even playing field so that people would have a similar look and be able to look from a conditioning standpoint and actual judge bodybuilding, not based on size. It was almost, it's then a look and a presentation. So you can't cap open, but it's not to say that the dudes in classic don't do wild shit. Like,
oh, absolutely. Some of them are taking as much or more than others. It depends on how much you're allowed to weigh. Like Logan Franklin is 10 pounds plus under the weight limit. Chris Bumstead is not even at the limit. Then you have little old Coach Greg. I'm way over my weight cap. And I'm like, how do these guys look like this at 185? But I have a wide waist and I got thick legs. And so I don't have that kind of physique. I can't look as big as Terrence because my shape is wrong. I don't have long friggin' tibias. The lower leg, if you have a really long tibia, you're taller. If you have a long neck, you're taller. I can only weigh 185. I'm on HRT. I weigh 194. I'm 9% body. I'm like, what is with these? I can't beat Chris. You could put any weight cap and I'm not beating him. So in my mind, if the judges actually judge it right, they wouldn't need a weight cap. They would just say, y'all line up, look classic, be in shape, and we're going to pick the winner. If you're too big, you should have been an open and you placed last. It seems simple.
It's, that's what makes it crazy. The freaks always put asses in the seats. But right now, there is a massive swing right now in bodybuilding to like the Chris Bumstead era. Because whenever I went to Alpha Land with our product specialist Heather when we were in Texas, went to Alpha Land, and I train at my own gym. I don't go to the gym very much. I just go to my gym, so I don't really see what's going on with all the young people or what they're wearing and how it's all going. Like there were people that looked just like Chris. I was like, that looks like Bumstead. I was like, they like the image, the whole look, and I'm like, man, there is something going on with this guy. Like he's changing how people do things. He has a massive impact on them. And you don't see so many people. There still are the freaks and people that want to get huge, but it is nothing like the era that is coming. So there is a swing, but like you said, that doesn't mean they're not taking less stuff. And it doesn't mean that they're any smarter. It just means that it's a different look. And they're trying to figure out how to look like that. And people just need to understand that steroids are going to play a role in your health. Like the second you start taking testosterone, your red blood cell count is going to go up. And then your red blood cell count goes up. And what's next? Well, you're going to get bigger. That's going to put more stress on your heart. Simple. Okay. And then all of a sudden, more than likely, your hematocrit's going to go up, your hemoglobin's going to go up, your resting heart rate's going to go up just from taking a little bit of test, maybe some D-ball too. Well, then you're going to notice spikes. So these things just need to be talked about so that young people understand that this is what's going to occur. It's not a maybe, it's a definite. And then it's a maybe on how much of an effect it's going to have on you. You just have to figure that out. Only way to figure it out is to do it.
And I think the problem really is that the young people see social media and they say, want to be popular. Everyone wants the dopamine, the clicks, the followers. And so if you're 19 years old and you don't look like a pro already, you feel like you've missed out on something. I mean, when I was 19, there was no social media. I'm way older than you even. There was nothing. I was the big kid. I had the biggest bench press, the biggest muscles. I was 149 pounds. I was jacked. You see Greg Doucette? Holy, that guy. And it was 149. I would win bodybuilding I was winning overalls as a lightweight. Look at Greg. He's got so much muscle. Nowadays, I would have looked like a men's physique guy, and they would have said, oh, he's kind of small. But back then I was huge because there was no social media. You didn't have Chris Bumstead in a lineup of guys that I can swipe right or left or up and down. How do you ever do it? To see right away. And so it's so hard for people now because they see on social media in 5 minutes, 100 people that look better than them. And it's not just men, it's women with the surgeries. It's horrible.
Dude, it's wild because like you said, the dopamine rush, like we were saying that this is pretty addictive and it's fucked up. It feels that way. Like you and I are two of the very few that are on the other side of this. Like you're on HRT, I'm on HRT. Like people like Seth still sauced out. I'm like, guys, I am a fat, wide-waisted, chubby white guy. Like that's my genetics. You look at my whole entire family, you're like, oh, you are all short, thick people. Yes, we are. And like you said in the message that we were talking about over the weekend, people think that they can't build muscle on HRT. You're going to build muscle. I'm going to sustain muscle. I was 204 pounds this morning, did a killer cardio session. Like I am very downsized in what I was doing. And now I'm excited because I'd like to get around 200 pounds, hang in that range. But, I like to eat. So for me to be under 200 pounds takes a lot of work. But you got to remember how long I've been at this. And like you said, with the dopamine rush that people get, like us being on the other side, like we had to get through those dopamine rushes. We had to get through this, I'm going to stop taking steroids now. And there's going to be an identity crisis. Like it's going to occur. Like I know I went through mine. Did you go through something similar when you stopped?
Oh, absolutely. When I stopped, I mean, I was as big as could be, and I was setting world records in the bench press, the powerlifting and stuff. And so whenever I went to the gym, I was either training to break a world record in a powerlifting lift, a Guinness record in a deadlift or the bench or whatever, or I was dieting for a show. So I had a huge goal in my mind to be this or that. And then I ended up getting injured. You probably see I had a surgery on my tricep here. I broke my elbow in a bike crash. And then I broke my elbow again in another bike crash. And then I couldn't train and I had less muscle. And I'm like, well, I kind of used the excuse of I've got an injury, so I'm going to be off gear. And I got smaller and I'm like, it's fine. And it takes time for your brain to catch up with what you see. And so at first I'm like, well, this sucks. But to me, it was an injury. And I said, well, I'll just get it back when I go on cycle. And I was fortunate to switch from being like into the open bodybuilding to switching to classic, and the weight class was 185. So when I did a cycle for that, I took about a quarter, maybe a third of what I used to take. So I still did a cycle for my last show, but it had to be small. It's not that it's still healthy, but it was a lot healthier or safer than my old ones. And so I knew I can't get any bigger. And so that made it easy. So I kind of transitioned from being up here to down here, and now I'm here. And I slowly did that over time. And I replaced that identity with, now I'm the fit guy that races bikes. So I'm like, rather than comparing myself to other bodybuilders and saying, well, that guy looks bigger than me, I can compare myself to other cyclists and say, how many bike riders look like I do and can race? And so it's a different mindset.
But here's the gig though. This is what people freak out about. And I think this is the identity crisis I went through. That you did, but you're cool with telling people to go fuck themselves. And I am too. But if you told me, like when I laid down at night, like, man, I'm not going to be like, I'm becoming this hybrid athlete doing CrossFit and doing some crazy cardio and doing the hunting adventures and all that, like hiking through the mountains for days. I'm excited. Like it's challenging. I'm really excited about that. But what I went through 2 years ago was I'm not going to be sauced out Seth anymore. And people really liked that guy on the internet. And we were just talking how people swipe and you're on your phone and you're like, man, like you said, 19, 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds. Look at Anthony Mantello. Is that his last name?
Yes.
Great kid. But you're looking at him and you're like, look how fucking popular you are. How's that possible? If you're 19 years old, you're comparing yourself to him. And it's like, guys, pump the brakes. He is doing something very incredible. I love the kid. He's a good kid. He works hard. Seems like he got a good head on his shoulder. He's just smacking right now, dude. He's hitting, and good for him. And it's great. You don't compare yourself to him. Do you? And that was something that even me, after competing in bodybuilding for 20 years, you know what I mean? Like in it for 20 years, it's like, Seth, it's okay. You don't have to be sauced out Seth forever. Everybody watching this, it's okay. You don't have to be sauced out you forever. You can transition your life and change how you do things because you'll have to. You can't be 50 years old, taking 1,000 mgs of test and thinking you're going to be healthy, giving advice that I'm healthy. Don't do that. We all know that's a lie. People can see the bullshit. It's okay to say, I'm fucked up and crazy at 55 years old. I love eating 5,000 calories a day and taking 1,000 mgs test. That's fine. Don't give health advice. Please shut the fuck up with that. But it's that identity crisis that people go through, and it's scary because you're like, man, I know that one picture I posted of me, that most muscular. People love that picture. I should post that again. Like, it's okay to change and develop and evolve in life. And that's for me, like these crazy CrossFit workouts, some functional and fuckable workouts I'm doing. They're not CrossFit. I don't do CrossFit. But that I'm doing, like, people are into it and I love it. I'm like, see, it's okay. It's reassuring to me. I'm like, it's okay. You're good. And these people need to understand that it is okay. Like, you're going to go through a huge mental swing that you're terrified of because your identity for decades has been the sauce. So it's okay to change and evolve. You just have to understand it's necessary if you want to have longevity of life.
And it's harder on your channel and it's harder on your business. And I know I make way more money on gear. I was strong. I can put up 7 plates for 12 reps. People are going to watch that. I know, I've seen them watch it. When I bench 5 plates for reps, they're watching that. And when I'm making a video and I have cross striations going across my chest and it's pumped up, people are like, oh, who's this guy with the freaking chest muscles? Now that I'm a bit smaller, you might swipe to the next guy, the next bigger guy that has the better, most muscular, that deadlifted more than you, that's stronger. Hey, look at Larry Wheels. He's freaking impressive. Coach Greg, he used to be strong, or they might not even know that I ever lifted anyway because they see me now. And so I know for fact, if I took a cycle and started making videos, I'm going to gain more followers and people are going to follow my journey back to the pro stage, back to 200 plus whatever pounds of muscle. And so it's hard because you could be better, but you just have to sit there and tell yourself, I'd rather live 10 years longer than have $10 more million. Like, it's just not worth it. Life is, if I had $10 million and somebody said, hey, you're going to die tomorrow, but if you pay 10 million, you can live another day. Here's my 10 million, one more day. So what is the money worth when the most important thing is your health and to live on this earth and enjoy yourself?
I got quite a few comments from people saying, well, that's easy because you made all your money. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did make all my money from how I looked. However, now I'm looking at things, and like you just said, if I could pay $10 million to take all those years back and be broke right now in this position that I'm in and be like, I spent every penny so that I could get those 10 or 15 or 20 years back, I'd be like, I can make more money. Here, take it. I'll go make more money. And it's just that thing of evolution of the mind and who you are as a person. And I'm also pretty confident that I'd be able to make more money, but it's like, I'd give it all up for that because the new aspirations in my life that I have currently give me very similar feelings that I had back then about what I wanted to do in bodybuilding. So I know that, like, a new passion in life has come that is coming over me now that I can't wait to experience because it's so similar to that. I'm like, man, I haven't had this feeling in a while and it took me 2 years to get to this point. you know, it's not overnight that these feelings will come about. So it's great to have a new passion for something, but it does take time, and that's another hard thing a lot of people don't want to go through. Like, you got to want to do this, just like you have to want to become a pro bodybuilder and be willing to sacrifice all of those crazy things to get to that next level. And at this point too, you have to, it's just a different type of sacrifice. It's a different type of mentality. Super difficult.
Now, I think, to me, life, it's all about being happy. And we talk about success, about money, about growing muscle. To me, happiness and having made a lot of money, and I'm going to bullshit people and say I'm just making a couple of dollars. I make a shit ton of money with supplements, cookbooks, and everything. I've sold not quite 100,000 books, but it's getting there. So I've made a lot of money, and it's fun. And when you sell 1,000 cookbooks in one day, of which I did 1,000, and they're $100 each, people can do some quick math and say, does he actually make I made a lot of money. And then after that, I never sold that many ever again. The amount of dopamine that was released in that one day, when you make $100,000 from, I was doing pretty good at making like $3,000 a day. I was like, holy shit, I'm making $100,000. I was like, what just happened? I felt like I was on every drug in this planet all at once. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden it's like, now what? And I'm like, the next cookbook, the next video, the next this. I'm like, I've never been able to get that high in my life. It's unfreaking believable. And so you think that all this money is going to make you happy. And I'm talking to other people. Sush, he's a famous guy. He bought a Lambo Urus, same as mine. And he's like, yeah, now I'm bored of it. I need another one. And he went from this car to that car to that car. He's like, I'm not happy anymore. And it's like, he's like 20. And so you make so much money and you buy something and it doesn't bring you happiness. When you're poor, you think, oh, if I'm rich, I'm gonna be happy. I've gone in every state where I had a cardboard box and I'm sitting on the floor and I have no money and I owe my lawyer $52,000 and I'm under house arrest. And I'm like, this freaking sucks. And so I worked my way from there. And I've decided happiness comes from having a little bit more than you had yesterday. As long as you do a bit more or accomplish a bit better than you expected. If I make a video when I first started and I got 10,000 views, I was like, holy shit, I'm bragging to my friend. I got 10,000 views in this video. It's ridiculous. Awesome. I'm blowing my mind. If I posted a video now and got 10,000 views, I would probably be depressed for the rest of the day. You need to have more. Once you get 1 million views, well, 500,000 sucks. If I only make $1 million this year, I'm probably gonna be like, I'm a loser as a business person because I only made $1 million. Because once you've made a lot more, everything sucks. And so I'm telling you, as an advice from somebody that's kind of done a lot in this world, just be happy with small successes, getting a little bit better, 1 or 2 pounds of muscle in a year, fan-freaking-tastic, because once you go on gear, which I did, and I put on 15 pounds of muscle in my first cycle, and I turned freaking pro before, it didn't take long.
No.
Then now what? Now in my next cycle, I put on 5 pounds. I'm like, well, I thought if I doubled the dose, I'd get at least 20 pounds. So I'm thinking, well, I thought, well, I'm going to be in the Olympia. First cycle, 15 pounds. I'm going to friggin', but the law of diminishing returns. And then every time you do a bigger cycle, you get less results. And I'm like, well, this sucks. And so if you do a cycle at 19, you're going to put on 20 pounds of muscle that first year, probably more. Then what? Then you got to do more and more. And then your health is at a greater compromise versus if you're natural, 3, 4, 5 pounds, whatever. And you do that for 10 freaking years, like I did. And all of a sudden you're freaking big and you look good. If you're ever going to do steroids, and I recommend you don't, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. I did. Wait as long as you friggin' can and take the lowest friggin' dose and be happy with the small gains, because the longer you stretch it out, the better. Because if you put on 100 pounds of muscle in a year, you're going to want another 100 the next year, and you're going to be depressed when you don't get it.
It is crazy how the human mind works. This is what fascinates me the most about it. You just went through that whole thing. That's my life as well. Like, there's nothing like a release. There's nothing like it. I'm like, yeah. And then the next day comes and you're like, that was intense. And then the day after you're like, so what's next? Let's go back to work. And the same thing. And it goes to anything that gives you this crazy high, whether it's a drug, whether it's a food, whether it's a feeling from work, making money, sex, anything. Like, they bring these feelings on you that you're just like, you don't even know what to do. And with bodybuilding and with a huge subject here, it is such a mental game. It is such a mental game that you need to have a firm grasp on your thoughts about what you want to do. Because if you don't, motherfucker, they will run. because all of a sudden, before you know it, you're like, yeah. So my first one, I took 500 milligrams test with a little bit of D-ball.
Oh, it just froze.
15 or 20 or 21, you gained, like you said, 15, 18 pounds. And then all of a sudden, next one, before you know it, 2 years later, you look at the dude, you're like, bro, what are you taking? What'd you do? Blown out waist. He's like, yeah, I started growth. I'm like, well, you're fucking 22 years old. Yeah, well, my coach that I'm working with also said, you know, if I want to make it, I got to start taking insulin. What do you mean? You're 22. You don't need to be taking insulin. You're in physique. What do you do taking insulin? Or anything? It's just it's crazy how quickly things can happen and how you can let your mind run on you and how you can get too exciting, get too ahead of yourself from those dopamine dumps from people telling you look great, all the likes. I got 100,000 views on that last video in 1 week. Who the fuck am I? I'm special now. I should keep doing this. It's like, oh man, we are living in some wild times that can just run away from you. So that firm understanding about what you want to do, and then just talking like you and I are right now, putting out this information, because there's not enough people that are open to be able to hear this and be like, okay, maybe I should take a step. I still want to do this. I'm not going to stop, but I just need to reevaluate how I want to go about it. I don't need to get too excited. More people need to talk like this. More people need to have these conversations and be like, dude, you're good at gaining 10 pounds in a year. Holy fuck. You gain 10 pounds in a year, dude. You're good. Did you take, like, when I was young, the guys that started, the York brothers, that's where I started lifting weights. They were natural competitors. They were all like 5'3", 5'4" guys. And they all were around that 150, 145 pound weight class whenever they competed. Tremendous legs. They were known for genetics. And like, I'm 2 inches taller than them. And I'm 17 years old, just gaining muscle. 18 years old, I'm like 175 pounds in really good shape, like a thick old boy. And they're like, we know the direction you want to go. I'm like, yeah. They're like, just be careful, dude. And they're like, you need to imagine when you gain all the weight you're talking about, that you want to gain another 10 pounds. They're like, go to the grocery store and buy 10 pounds of beef and put it on your body. Like, that's how it would look, metaphorically, not literally. And it's like, whenever people need to look at and evaluate how much weight that actually is, 10 or 20 pounds, like, imagine just taking 20 pounds of steaks and putting it on you. Like, that's actually what you're kind of gaining at that point if you gain that much weight. So be very mindful of what that can do to the body. And in reverse right now, I used to be 240, 245. I take 40 pounds of steaks and put them on me right now. That's how big I used to be. That's a shitload of weight. So I think having these open conversations and people understanding to just take your time, be very mindful and understand exactly what you want to achieve first thing in the beginning. Like, this is my goal. Stick to that. Don't let your mind run away from you, because it will if you let it.